It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Chicago Cubs. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Sunday to you, wherever you may be. Final game of the series with the Cubs and the final game of the homestand. Dodgers won yesterday, Giants lost. So let's take a look at the leaders. The Cubs have won 82 games. They're 14 in front of St. Louis. The Nationals have won 75, and despite losing yesterday, they're 8 games in front of the Marlins. The Dodgers have won 72 games, and they're 2 games in front of the Giants. For the Cubs, August has been a dream. 19-5 in the month. Since the All-Star break, the Cubs are 29-11, 23 of the last 29, and on the road, they've won 8 of the last 11. Today, they lead with their best. That would be John Lester with a record of 14-4. Went up against the Dodgers at Wrigley back in June and beat them 2-1, beating Mike Bolsinger. In that game, he went the distance, struck out 10, and retired last of the 15 in a row. On the mound for the Dodgers, Brock Stewart from Normal, Illinois. That's about 130 miles south of Chicago. He has a record of 0-2. He has lost to Milwaukee and Colorado. Dodgers leave to play 3 in Colorado. They are 7-5 against the Rockies. They'll be back here on the 2nd of September against San Diego and Arizona. So, names and numbers, the big thing, pull up a chair, relax, spend a wonderful Sunday at a good ball game, and a whole lot more right after this. And a very pleasant Sunday afternoon. Welcome to Dodger Stadium. It's the 17th annual Jewish Community Day here at the ballpark, and a nice crowd on hand, beautiful weather, and the prospects of another dandy. The Dodgers 2 games in front of San Francisco. Last night, the Giants were beaten by a 3-run home run from Matt Kemp. Meanwhile, the Giants in Atlanta in the stop of the first, just starting, no score. So the Dodgers sitting atop by 2. The Cubs are 14 games above St. Louis. And let's take a look at the visiting Chicago 9. Dexter Fowler leading off in center field. Chris Bryant in left field. Anthony Rizzo at first base. Ben Zobrist at second, hitting cleanup. Addison Russell at short. Jason Hayward at right field. Javier Baez at third base. David Ross, the catcher. John Lester, the pitcher. On the mound for the Dodgers, a young man who is trying to make a little history, because as a 24-year-old, he completed a rather meteoric rise from Single-A to the majors in the same season. In fact, he became the first Dodger since Hideo Nomo back in 1995 to begin the year in Single-A and start in a major league game the same season. He is 0-2. He lost to Milwaukee. He also lost to Colorado, and he had a no decision against Pittsburgh. So Brock Stewart, 6'3", about 170. He'll be 25 October the 3rd. He's from Normal, Illinois, which is about 133 miles south of Chicago. And he'll get Fowler, Bryant, and Rizzo here in the first inning. So Brock working from the first base side of the rubber, but not overly so. And Fowler, switch hitter at the plate. And the first pitch to Dexter, in for a strike. And the count 0-1. Brock Stewart's dad is a scout in baseball, so baseball means a great deal to the family. The strike one pitch is whipped way inside and low. 1 ball and 1 strike. If you go to Normal, Illinois, that's where Illinois State is. Meanwhile, here the temperature 81 degrees. So Fowler, Bryant, and Rizzo. The rubber game, so-called. Each has won 1 of the previous 2. Here's the 1-1 pitch on the way. Fowler looks, and that's low, ball 2. The Cubs off the mark, doing very well in game 1. They sent 6 men to the plate and scored once. Yesterday, they sent 6 men to the plate and scored once. They won 1 and lost 1. 2-1 pitch is swung on and fouled back, and the count 2-2. So Brock Stewart in a big game, certainly the biggest one in his young career. 2 teams driving for the postseason. The Cubs certainly figure to make it easily. Still a struggle for the Dodgers. 2-2 pitch, in for a strike, and down goes Fowler, caught looking. We'll take a look at the Dodgers defensively. It's Gonzalez and Culberson, Seager and Turner, with Kendrick, Hernandez, and Seguin. Grandal behind the plate. So Dexter Fowler strikes out, and the batter now is Chris Bryant. For Fowler, it's the first time he has made out leading off a game in the series. Previously, a single and a walk. So here's Chris Bryant. Dodgers know all about him. Bryant, we've seen play a lot of third base, but he's in the outfield and left field today. The question is answered. Why is Javier Baez playing third? Joe Madden says Baez plays third wherever the most action is on the field. Meanwhile, Bryant is ahead in the count, 2 balls and no strikes. Bryant hitting in the 290s, 35 home runs, 89 runs batted in. Big man bends at the waist and the knees. 2-1 pitch on the way is swung on and missed, and the count 2-1. Bryant with Rizzo on deck. No score, just the beginning. Dodgers and Cubs, there's been a feel of the postseason about the previous 2 games. 2-1 pitch is swung on and missed. 2-2. So Brock Stewart, growing up in Normal, Illinois, probably a pretty good Cubs fan. Brock, deep in thought, lifts his head, looks in to get a sign. The 2-2 pitch on the way, down and away, fastball at 94, and he runs the count 3-2. So Bryant waiting, Rizzo on deck. That's 60 home runs together. 3-2 way outside, ball 4. So after striking out Fowler, Brooks Stewart walks Bryant, and the batter is Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo checking in, hitting .299, 25 home runs, 89 ribbies, and 3 for 8 in the series. So the big left-hand hitting first baseman checking in, and behind him is Ben Zobrist. Bryant, who's a big man at first base, but he runs well, he has stolen 6 bases. So Bryant, cautious lead, held on by Adrian, and Rizzo settles in. Dodgers load up the right side, the middleman Justin Turner, and the first pitch a little low, ball 1. 1-0. Corey Seager all alone on the left side. Rizzo from Florida, born in Fort Lauderdale, lives in Parkland. Joined the Cubs in 2012. Throw to first. They'll keep an eye on Bryant. As we mentioned, despite the fact he is big and known for home runs, he also runs pretty well. As big as he is, if it take it for granted that he doesn't go, he can. 1 ball and no strikes. Rizzo waiting. Stewart set at the letters. Comes to the plate, and that's foul back. Good fastball at 94. 1-1 the count. Dodgers after this game will get on an airplane and head for Denver. They have a 3-game series with Colorado starting Monday night. Dodgers trying to stay 2 in front. Meanwhile, the Cubs will go home and play the Pirates. 1-1 pitch swung on and missed, and the count 1-2. In looking at Stewart's previous work, not only 0-2 with a big ERA of 11, 7 walks, 10 strikeouts, so he's fighting it, but so far so good. 1-2 the count to Anthony Rizzo. Right-hander ready. Brooks at the belt, comes to his hitter, and that's foul back. Rizzo with a short swing. You would think at his size, with his reputation home run hitter, he'd be taking some big long swings, but with 2 strikes, he's just trying to make contact. And of course, he's big enough to make contact and hit it out. Rizzo is 6'3", 220, 27 years old. Now the pitch to Bryant, that's lifted to center, very playable. Waiting for it to come down is Hernandez. Back to first base goes Bryant. 2 down in the first inning. Bryant at first base, and Ben Zobrist coming up. Zobrist started the first game at second base, wound up in left field. Then last game, he started the game in left field and moved around. Started in right. So he plays almost anywhere. And as we mentioned the other day when he was with Tampa, he played every position but pitcher and catcher. So Zobrist checking in. Switch hitter too, and batting left-handed. They're going to keep an eye on Bryant with 2 out. Zobrist in yesterday's game sacrificed, struck out, singled, and grounded out. And the game before, he was 1 for 5. The first pitch to Ben, off speed and low, ball 1. It was Zobrist who hit that ground ball that looked like a sure base hit in the first game when Chase Utley made the incredible diving stop, and while on his back threw Zobrist out at first base. The 1-0 pitch to Ben. That's a fastball at the knees, outside corner, and the count 1-1 strike. So one thing about Brock Stewart, he's challenging the hitters. It looks like he's very comfortable in the position facing the great Cub team that has won 82. Here's the 1-1 pitch on the way. Brock lets it up there, and it's hit in the air down the left field line. A trio of Dodgers in pursuit. It's going to land foul and jump up into the stand. So Seager, Turner, Kendrick all trying to converge. They couldn't get to it. 1-2 strikes. They count to Ben Zobrist. Back to first goes Bryant. Zobrist out of Eureka, Illinois, where Ronald Reagan went to college, lives now in Nashville, Tennessee. He's 4th in the big leagues in walks and 5th in doubles. So a solid all-around ball player, Ben Zobrist. Stewart ready, set, here he comes, whips a fastball at the feet. Nice save by Grandal, who came up ready to throw with a left-hand hitter as a screen. But Bryant was scurrying back to the bag. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. No score. The Cubs have scored in the first inning in each of the first 2 games. Stewart goes to his stretch. Right-hander ready. Bryant holding. Rizzo swings and misses on a fastball away, and down he goes. So Stewart strikes out 2, walks 1, leaves a man, and at the end of half an inning, it's the Cubs nothing and the Dodgers coming up. To score, we can take a look at the Dodger lineup now as written out by Dave Roberts, and here are the names on his card. It starts off with Howie Kendrick in left, Corey Seager at short, Justin Turner at third, Adrian Gonzalez cleanup at first, Kike Hernandez in center, Rob Segedin in right, Yasmani Grandal behind the plate, Charlie Culberson at second base, Brock Stewart on the mound. On the mound for the Cubs, John Lester, 6'2", 240, out of Tacoma, Washington. Pitched a no-hitter against the Royals back in 2008. 3-time All-Star, twice a World Series champion. Lester's record 4-4 in the daytime, 10-0 at night. And the first pitch to Howie Kendrick is low, ball 1-0. It's early. We can tell you the Braves got a run in the first inning. Matt Kemp, sacrifice fly, though they lead the Giants 1-0, bottom of the first inning. Kendrick takes a strike, and the count 1-1. That ball game is Aaron Blair and Madison Bumgarner. So John Lester looks in to get a sign. He went all the way to beat the Dodgers in Chicago back in June. Works a slider low, and the count 2 balls and 1 strike. So Kendrick, Seager, Turner going after John Lester here in the first inning. 2-1 pitch on the way. Fastball down and away. And that runs the count to 3-1. Lester, both feet together, looks down to get a sign. Now John is ready, and his 3-1 pitch, fastball just low, ball 4. A double look by John at the plate umpire, David Rackley. He's not happy about that call. Take a look at the Cubs. Here they are. Rizzo, Zobrist, Russell, and Baez. Bryant, Fowler, and Hayward, with David Ross catching John Lester. Jason Hamill was very obviously troubled and angry when he was pitching yesterday. He lasted 2 1/3 innings, and part of his problems, I believe he thought, was the umpiring. So now Kendrick walks. Lester looks over, comes to his hitter, and works a strike against Seager. Corey Seager doing all kinds of wondrous things. First of all, he is leading the Dodger pack with his home runs at 23. Most home runs hit by a Dodger shortstop. The rookie, so-called, but playing like a 10-year veteran. And Seager backs out with Justin Turner on deck. Dodgers have been able to do pretty well against the Cubs since, let's say, 2012. They've played 33 games, and the Dodgers have won 20. Seager fouls a pitch away off to the left, and the count, no balls and 2 strikes. Lester, a veteran, started in the rookie league with the Red Sox back in 2002. He got a World Series ring in 2007 and again in 2013. Left-hander set, and his strike 2 pitch on the way. Fastball swung on and missed, and down goes Seager. So the last time we saw Lester, he struck out 10 Dodgers, and now he nails Corey here in the first inning. So a runner at first, 1 out, and Justin Turner checking in. 274, 24 home runs, 76 runs batted in, and really started on fire early in June. 21 home runs since the 7th of June. Lester is a strikeout pitcher as he works the first pitch for a strike, 0-1. Last year, the end of July, he struck out 14 Rockies. That was the most strikeouts by a Cub left-hander in at least 100 years. John looks down the barrel, getting a sign. No score, bottom of the first inning. The next one, little low, and a 1-ball, 1-strike count. I'm sure if you're going to be successful, especially in a park like Wrigley, you want to keep that ball down most of the time. His 4-seam fastball can be clocked as high as 95. He has a knee-buckling curveball and a pretty good change. And he has fooled around with a cutter. He decided to drop the cutter, and then the Red Sox said they wanted it back into his arsenal. Veteran left-hander set, looks over at Howie Kendrick. Long look at him. Now the pitch of the plate, that snakes its way in for a strike. Now Turner's a little upset. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count. Lester so far keeping the ball down. Struck out Seager after walking Kendrick. 1 ball and 2 strikes. The next pitch is away and low, and the count 2 balls and 2 strikes. For Lester, in talking about keeping the ball down, he has allowed 15 home runs. John ready, another look at Kendrick. A long stare at Kendrick. An even longer stare. Now to the plate, and it's a strike for strike 3. And Turner walks away. So Lester nailing Seager and Turner.
Adrian Gonzalez.
2 down, and Adrian Gonzalez coming up. Gonzalez playing every day, hitting .296, but for about 3 weeks, hitting .367. With his 7 home runs, that gives him 16. 23 RBIs gives him 74. 2 down, Kendrick at first. Lester looks over. Now the pitch to the plate, breaking ball away. 1 ball and no strike. Big sweeping fastball that just suddenly cut it away. 1 ball and no strikes. Lester, no score. Bottom of the first. Looks at Kendrick, who goes, and the pitch fouled away. So Howie Kendrick going on the pitch. Foul ball sends him back. Kendrick had some success stealing bases, and for Lester last year, believe it or not, he allowed 44 stolen bases. This year he's allowed 22. Lester ready, comes back to the hitter, gets it in for a strike. Lester about 6'2", 240, but he's like a hook and ladder. A lot of movable parts, and you can understand because of that the base runners take a lot of advantage of him. Lester, ball in his glove, holding the glove up to his face. Now reaches in at a high set. The 1-2 pitch, breaking ball away. High throw, and it's going to go down the right field line. So Howie Kendrick around second, on his way to third. So David Ross trying to take a shot at Kendrick and threw it high. It'll be an error for Ross, and the Dodgers now have a runner with 2 out. The throw was on the foul line side of first base, and even as big as he is, Rizzo could not get up there and get the glove on it. So David Ross, who began his career as a Dodger, and he's one of those guys you would just love him if you knew him. Terrific guy. He's retiring this year at 39. He catches John Lester just about every game. So Gonzalez up there, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Lester, by the way, has 4 wild pitches. Bluffing down the line is Kendrick, and the next pitch down and away to Adrian Gonzalez. Lester has won 141 games in his career. Second to CC Sabathia, the winningest active left-handers. Who's fourth? Clayton Kershaw with 125. Cole Hamels has 135. Meanwhile, it's 3-2 to Adrian. Dodgers trying to get a jump thanks to that error by David Ross. Kendrick at third, 2 out, no score, first inning. Lester out of a set, very deliberate. Now to the plate, in on the hand, swung on and missed. So Gonzalez strikes out, and all Lester does is quietly strike out the side. That sigh of relief you heard was from David Ross. And at the end of an inning, no score. Coming to Dodger Stadium, that's right. 3-game series starting Monday, September 19 through Wednesday, the 21st. And for tickets, visit Dodgers.com/tickets. And we can tell you, Braves leading the Giants 1-0, bottom of the second inning. Addison Russell, followed by Jason Hayward, and then Javier Baez in that order. Addison Russell having a wonderful year. 84 runs batted in. Hits one into shallow right center. Coming in to pick it off is Rob Seguin. So we have one away on a little fly ball to right. That will bring in Jason Hayward. Jason Hayward playing right field. Came in yesterday as a pinch hitter, single to left in the 7th inning, represented the tying run and was thrown out trying to steal. Played the first game and had a double and a single. And Jason takes high, ball 1, 1-0. Top of the second inning, no score, Dodgers and Cubs. The 1-0 pitch on the way. It's taken for a strike, and the count 1-1. Brooks Stewart, or Brock Stewart, really, working on a 1-1 count. Right-hander flips it in, and it's whacked down the right field line, foul, and into the seats. Stewart pitching a very big game, and when you realize his career has been rather amazing. Spent most of the year at Rancho Cucamonga, and here he is in the big leagues against the Cubs. The next one, a shot up the middle for a base hit. So Jason Hayward with one down in the second, singles to center. Javier Baez coming up. Played second base yesterday and plays third base today. We mentioned it earlier. This is the 13th time that Baez has played third base with Lester pitching. And they asked Joe Maddon how come. Joe says, I like Baez to play wherever the most action is on the field. So in Maddon's mind, it's third base. So with Hayward at first, Baez at the plate, David Ross on deck. Brock Stewart throws to first, not in time. Hayward has stolen 8 bases. Cubs are really not what you'd call a running ball club. High man has 11. Now the pitch to the plate, that's in for a strike. 0-1 to Javier Baez. No relation. Javier is from the Puerto Rico area, and of course Pedro from the Dominican Republic. Waiting on deck, David Ross. No score, top of the second inning. Strike one pitch on the way. Stewart's fastball is foul back. Got up there at 93, and Baez hit it off to the right. Javier Baez playing second base yesterday went 0 for 4, but he made a tremendous play playing second base, not with the infield up. Fielded a ground ball, and he threw Julio Urias out at the plate. He appeared as a pinch hitter late in the first game and struck out. So the young fielder with Hayward off the bag at first. Baez a big swing, and down he goes. So we've had 6 strikeouts in the game. Each pitcher with 3. And the batter now, David Ross. David Ross started his career way back here in 2002. In fact, his first assignment was catching Hideo Nomo. And when the game was over, Hideo was so happy with David's call of pitches in the game, he gave him his glove, which David Ross treasures to this day. Big right-hand batter. Hayward now at first with 2 down. The pitcher Lester hitting behind Ross, who fouls it back, and the count 0-1. David Ross hitting .237. 8 home runs, 27 runs batted in. David's out of Bainbridge, Georgia. Lives in Tallahassee, Florida. Brock Stewart walked a batter in the first inning. Chris Bryant gave up a single to Hayward. 2 out here in the second. No score after John Lester struck out the side in the first inning. Stewart delivers fastball. Ross very late in getting around, and the count 0-2. Up north, Jarrett Parker, an RBI ground ball. Joe Panik, a home run. So in the bottom of the second inning, the Giants are now leading the Braves 2-1. 0-2 the count to David Ross. Out of a stretch goes Stewart. Another look over and a throw over to first. Chris Guccione is the umpire there. Alfonso Marquez at second. Larry Vanover at third. And the plate umpire, David Rackley. No balls and 2 strikes. Ross looking for a pitch to hit. Brock Stewart set, ready. And the right-hander strike 2 pitch about ready to get underway. Here she comes, and it is swung on and missed. 4 strikeouts for the young right-hander Brock Stewart. 3 strikeouts for the veteran Lester. And we're going to the bottom of the second inning. No score. In the ball game, it'll be Kike Hernandez, Rob Segedin, and Yasmani Grandal against John Lester. John, both feet on the rubber, struck out the side in the first inning after walking Howie Kendrick. Left-hander ready and delivers a strike, in the count 0-1. By the way, a little bit of a preamble before we get to the third inning. Today, this telecast and the play-by-play will be seen and heard throughout the Sportsnet Chicago network. Just the third inning. So we'll be saying hello, welcoming them to Dodger Stadium, etc. Just thought I'd let you know. Strike 2 pitch on the way is pulled foul off towards the Dodger dugout. Still 0-2 to Kike Hernandez. Kike in there against left-handers. Done some pretty solid work. Although in and out of the lineup isn't going to help you. He does have 6 home runs 15 runs batted in. Light breeze blowing from left to right. The fastball is in there. See you later. That's 4 consecutive strikeouts for John Lester.
Right fielder number 25.
Well, he struck out 10 Dodgers in Chicago. And the batter now, Rob Seguin, the new daddy, followed by Yasmani Grandal. So 1 away in the second inning, no score. Stewart has made 33 pitches. Lester has made 23. Seguin with 2 home runs. 12 runs batted in. Lifts one to right field. It's playable. Hayward started back and then comes up for it. 2 down in the second inning. And Yasmani Grandal coming up. Grandal in there as the regular catcher. Dave Roberts makes that a point, emphasizing Yasmani will play every day. It's not like, whoa, there's a left-hander and we're going to play Carlos Ruiz. And Ruiz did a very nice veteran thing already, and he's only been with the club 2 days. Lester ready and delivers. Grandal takes low and inside, ball 1. What Carlos did without asking anybody, on his own, he went down to the bullpen and started warming up pitchers just so he'd get a feel for them. A very smart, wise thing from a veteran. Meanwhile, the pitch to Grandal, a strike. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Lester ready and comes back to Grandal. That one misses down and away. 2-1 the count. So for Lester, I don't think I've seen him get a pitch up above the knees yet. Two and 1 the count. Now the veteran left-hander snakes one down. It's hit it short. Up with it is Russell to make the play, and that'll do it. So don't forget now, when we come back in the 3rd inning, this is also going to go to the Cubs network all over the Midwest. And with that, at the end of 2, no score. Afternoon to you wherever you may be. We're at Dodger Stadium looking at your Cubs as they battle the Dodgers. It's an honor, a privilege, and kind of a kick to know that we're being heard in the area that roots so hard for the Cubs. So we'll try for Joe Madden and all the great guys we know in Cub uniform to give you a pretty good 3rd inning. John Lester's going to start it off, and you may or may not remember, but John began his career no hits in 71 at-bats. That included postseason. However, look out. He has moved up. He has improved, and he actually has 4 walks in his last 8 games. He bats as he pitches, left-handed. Brock Stewart ready, delivers, swung on and missed, and the count 0-1. There's another thing I have to explain to you folks on the Sportsnet network for the Cubs. I'm jabbering more than you're probably accustomed to, and we'll explain why in a moment. Strike 1 pitch on the way, fastball in there, strike 2. We're doing a simulcast, so this is both radio and television. So if I say ground ball to short and you say, you don't have to tell me, I can see it. Well, that's just the way we're doing it here. Strike 2 pitch, a little low, ball 1. Brock Stewart, he's from Normal, Illinois. We understand that's about 130 miles or so south of Chicago. The 1-2 pitch, fastball in there. See you later, John. So Lester walks away, and we have 1 out, and we've had a lot of strikeouts now. Lester has 4, Stewart has 5, and we've had 9 strikeouts in 2 1/3 innings. So 1 away, and now Dexter Fowler coming up. Dexter Fowler, big boy out of Alpharetta, Georgia. And I don't know if they talk about it in Chicago, but we understand he has about 300 pair of sneakers, which kind of catches your eye. Big swing and a miss, and the count 0-1. Of course, when I think of Wrigley Field, it's been one of my favorite ballparks for a lot of reasons. We broadcast the first night game at Wrigley, and I felt very disappointed for the people in Chicago. The strike 1 pitch is low because the night before WGN was supposed to televise the first game at night, and that would have been only perfect. But it rained, and so the network, NBC at the time, and we went in and broadcast, but I did feel the disappointment. 1-1 off-speed pitch, swung on and missed, and the count 1-2. I also really got such a big kick out of singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." I didn't do it for me. I did it in honor of Harry Carey. In fact, Cubs asked me to come back and do it again, and I said, no. It was only once, and it was for Harry. Fastball foul back. And if you are, well, I don't know if you're old enough to remember. If you have a grandfather, you might ask him. But the first couple of years when I was broadcasting, we would go to Wrigley Field on a Sunday, and they had a full orchestra with a male singer and a female singer in the seats directly behind home plate. 1-2 pitch, high and away. 2 balls and 2 strikes. And by the way, Cubs fans, you are not going to hear any raspberries from the Dodger fans on one particular thing. Here's the 2-2 pitch coming up to Dexter Fowler. Swung on and fouled away. You know, people give the Cubs a bad time. They've lost 7 straight World Series. Do you know what? The Dodgers lost 7 straight World Series. 1916, 20, 41, 47, 49, 52, and 53. They finally broke it in 55. 2-2 on the way, lifted foul way off to the left and out of play. And the count remains 2 balls and 2 strikes. Cubs pulled out the first game, and we have a lot of Cub fans here, by the way. You can hear them and see them throughout the series, and they've been a joy to have us here. 2-2 the count. Young Brock Stewart turns, right-handed deals. This one is in there. Strike 3 called, so Fowler strikes out a second time. That is 6 strikeouts for Stewart in 2 2/3 innings. Add that to the 4 that John Lester has recorded, and we have 10 strikeouts, and we're not any finished in the 3rd inning. The here now is Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant ready to check in. 35 home runs. Put on a show the other night here. Hit a home run in the 8th and then won it. 2-run home run in the 10th. Big swing and a miss, and the count 0-1. Bryant from Las Vegas. In fact, if you were a youngster growing up at the same time, you would always hear 2 names, and certainly one of them was Chris Bryant. Here's the strike one pitch on the way, off speed, and he was out in front of it. 0-2. Bryce Harper and Chris Bryant. And the Harper said, hey, do you know about what Bryce did? He was 10 years old and he hit 2 home runs in a tournament. Well, Bryant was 9 years old and I think he hit 7 in a tournament, and he strikes out. Well, I will be. Stewart strikes out the side. He has 7 strikeouts in 3 innings. And at the end of 2.5, no score. Cubs have struck out 7 times in 3 innings. The Dodgers have struck out 4 times in 2 innings. And into the bottom of the 3rd we go. John Lester ready to work on Charlie Culberson, and then Brock Stewart. And the first pitch in for a strike with Culberson faking bunt. Boy, I have heard of organizations courting desired players. And the Cubs and the Giants really wanted John Lester. The Cubs won and the Giants truly lost. The pitch outside 1-1. The Giants, for instance, they tried so hard to get Lester. They sent Larry Baer, the president, Brian Sabian, the general manager, Bruce Bochy, the manager, and Buster Posey as Culberson swings and misses. Posey drove from about 3 hours away from his home in Georgia to get to John Lester. And when the doorbell rang and John opened it, the first words were, "Hi, I'm Buster Posey. I'd like to be your catcher for the next 6 years." The 1-2 pitch is fouled away. The Cubs did and deserved to get him. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you folks know the story back in Chicago, but out here, the Cubs created a DVD. It started out with a picture of Wrigley Field and then a fake sign saying World Series, and then they had the starting pitchers on the World Series sign. The fastball away, 2-2, and it was John Lester versus I think I forget, Pineda maybe, for the Yankees. That was the sign that they put up. But there was also music and then some other creative scenes on the DVD. 2-2 pitch on the way is swung on and missed, of course, right? That's 5 strikeouts, 1 out in the 3rd, and the batter will be Brock Stewart. They not only had music, they had scenes of a dog pile. players jump on top of each other. They just won, and this was supposed to be the winning game in the World Series for the Cubs. And who was the pitcher? John Lester. I mean, that's really creative scouting. But they didn't stop there. John Reddy now working Stewart and gets a strike. Cubs continued to woo him. They sent flowers to his wife Farrah, fine wines, camouflage Cubs shirts and hats. The next pitch off the plate, 1-1. So it was really putting on the pressure. Lester eventually went with Chicago, and they have themselves a dandy. John from Tacoma lives in the Atlanta area. His dad's a policeman, and there's a base hit. A line drive single. What a day for Brock Stewart. So young Brock from Normal, Illinois. It's not normal for us to see a kid from Rancho Cucamonga work his way up. They're going to get the ball and keep it for him. His first major league hit. Wow. So Lester backs off the mound. Little time to develop before Howie Kendrick checks in. We were talking earlier to the folks here how brilliant Lester is in just about every area. But especially, he's just about unbeatable at night. John Reddy, they're not expecting Stewart to do any running, and Kendrick takes a strike, and the count 0-1. The Lord works in mysterious ways. The Cubs are inspirational, not for baseball abilities. I mean, even those of us here in Southern California are well aware of Anthony Rizzo and John Lester. Strike one pitch, squirted foul, back to the screen, 0-2. Both of them diagnosed with lymphoma. Both have come back. Anthony Rizzo playing great at first base. And for John Lester, the Lord works in mysterious ways. I mean, Lester diagnosed. They sent him to the minor leagues to rehab. He didn't want to go, but he did, and met his wife. There's the strike two pitch, a little high. They have a charitable institution. They just use the front letters of the words, never quit. And Anthony Rizzo has a family foundation. So both of them inspire us in a lot of ways. Stewart at first, 1 out, 3rd inning, no score. Lester a look over. They're not going to hold Stewart. And the next pitch, punch foul off to the right, carries upstairs. We can swap weather with you, I think, in the Chicago area. I think we heard it was 82 and slightly cloudy. Here it's 81. A brilliant blue canopy overhead. Unfortunately, not a threat of rain. I wish we could borrow some from the Midwest. Here's the 1-2 pitch on the way. Lester ready and delivers. Kendrick a foul ball outside of third and down the line. So Kendrick, who has done a tremendous job for the Dodgers, a seasoned second baseman, all of a sudden they put him in the outfield, and he's found a home out there, playing very, very well. 1-2 the count. Lester a look, left-handed deals, big chopper to shortstop. Russell quickly to second base. They turn it to first, and just like that, the Cubbies get the double play. Hey, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed being with you. Oh, I know. Somebody's going to say, hey, did you hear Scully? The other guy say, yeah, what's a big deal? Well, it was a big deal for me. I loved it. And at the end of 3, no score. won the ball game. Brock Stewart has struck out 7 in 3 innings. One man hit the ball. That was Anthony Rizzo, a fly ball. Russell hit a fly ball. Bryant walked. Otherwise, he's really been something. Rizzo, that big swing, comes up empty. 0-1. Rizzo flied to center in the first inning. No runs and 1 hit for each side. The bunt along third, fouled, and nobody there. With the right side loaded up, Seager's playing shortstop. Had that ball just stayed fair, he has an easy base hit. But it didn't. Brock Stewart out of Normal, Illinois. He has struck out 7. We're scoreless in the 4th. Brock 0-2 against Milwaukee and Colorado. Fastball. Still 0-2. Dodgers leave town immediately after the game. They will fly to exotic Colorado, play a 3-game series with the Rockies. 0-2. Wow. So Rizzo strikes out. Brock Stewart has now struck out 8 in a row. Not only is that remarkable, he has struck out 6 in a row and 8 in the game. Wow. The easiest thing to say with Stewart 0-2 and Lester 14-4. Heck, it's David and Goliath. But it's a little more interesting than that as Zobrist checks in. That's a strike. 0-1. No score, 4th inning. And a strike again. The great name, or lack of thereof, given to Zobrist from his manager Joe Maddon, who indeed has a way with words. But in talking about Zobrist, Joe Maddon said he has no chrome, meaning no glitter, no flair, just a solid ball player. 1-2. Has no chrome. Quite a compliment. Joe is a wonderful guy. He really is something special. If you ever bump into him or have a chance to talk with him, it's worth it. High fly ball, it's playable. PK is there using the glove for a little shade on the eyes and makes the catch. So we have 2 out in the 4th inning. Brock Stewart has allowed 1 hit. That was a single by Jason Hayward. But he has struck out 8, walked 1 in 3 2/3 innings. John Lester has allowed 1 hit. He has struck out 4. Fastball and a good one. He just zeroed in on the strike zone. Throwing 94-mile-an-hour fastballs, as the scouts say, coming so easily out of his hand, and for strikes. 1 ball and 1 strike. Brock Stewart, 6'3", 170. He'll be 25 October 3rd. Fastball, little ground ball. Justin Turner is on it. There you go. Another 1-2-3 inning. Meanwhile, the Giants are leading the Braves 4-1, bottom of the 4th. Joe Panik just hit a 2-run home run. Here, scoreless at the middle of the 4th. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by the Dodge Challenger. Test drive one at your local Dodge dealer today. Looking back, a picture of Wrigley Field in May of 1940. And on the boards at the front, you can see Brooklyn. The Dodgers there May 16, 17, and 18. Seager, Turner, and Gonzalez. Bottom of the fourth, no score. 1 ball and 1 strike. Lester is great at home. He's even greater on the road in some ways. Behind now 2-1. At home, 25 games above 500. On the road, 33 games above 500. On the road, 73-40. At home, 68-43. Foul ball, 2-2. Corey Seager struck out in the first inning. Oh yeah, they're the home run hitters for shortstops, and Corey's atop the heap in Dodger history. And yet Glenn Wright, remember Hanley Ramirez had 19, Don Zimmer 17, and the captain Pee Wee Reese 16. 2-2. Just low. Dodgers have had 2 base runners. Kendrick walked on a throwing error by David Ross. He got to third. Stewart singled with 1 out in the third, and Kendrick hit into a double play. 3-2. Swung on and fouled away. Big 93-mile-an-hour fastball. John Lester. Well, you knew he was going to be great. You go back to 2002. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year. That was in the state of Washington. He's from Tacoma. Pitched a no-hitter in high school. Struck out 18 of the 21 batters. Fastball is low. So Seager gets aboard on a walk. Lester, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks. Allowed 1 hit. Turner struck out in the first inning. In fact, Lester struck out the side and had a stretch of 4 in a row. That paled in comparison because Brock Stewart struck out 6 in a row. Baez and Ross, Lester, Fowler, and Bryant, and then Rizzo. Way off the plate, ball 1. Turner, Gonzalez to follow. There's Brock Stewart, trying not to think about anything but the moment. And ball 2. And so David says, wait a minute, I'll walk a new ball out. Going out to talk to his buddy John Lester. Ross has caught almost every single inning that Lester has pitched this year. By the way, we were talking about that clever way that the Cubs were able to sign Lester. They signed him to a 6-year deal for about $155 million. Fastball foul back, 2-1. No score, 4th inning. Giants are winning big up north. Cubs are 14 games ahead of the Cardinals. Dodgers are 2 in front of the Giants. Denard Span just hit a home run. The Giants lead the Braves 5-1 and heading to the 5th inning. 2-2. Waiting on deck, Adrian Gonzalez. He struck out along with Turner and Seager in the first inning. Nobody out, bottom of the fourth. Seager over there at first, held on by Rizzo. 2-2. Fastball sliced foul. That fastball at 95. That's as high a mark as Lester has hit on the fastball chart. In Brock Stewart's 4 innings, he's made 59 pitches. Lester, nobody out in the fourth. He's made 55. Two and two. Fouled away again. Two balls, two strikes. Fastball popped up. Right side, fighting the sun is Zobrist. Coming in is Hayward. It will be Zobrist. Well, that's a big league play. Not a cloud in the sky up there. Brilliant sunshine. And you are on your own trying to catch it.
Number 23, Adrian Gonzalez.
So one out in the fourth. Adrian Gonzalez struck out in the first inning. No runs and one hit for each side. Stewart, the Dodger pitcher, has struck out 8. Lester, the Cub pitcher, has struck out 5. Gonzalez struck out in the first inning. And a strike. Lester struck out the side in the first inning. Stewart struck out the side in the third inning. Jock Peterson and Julio Urias on either side of him. 0-2. There's been a feeling, really and truly, since Friday night that the games between these two teams have a postseason feel about it. And certainly today is right on the money. 0-2. Yesterday, 3-2. A drive that'll go foul down the line. And of course, game one, Cubs had to come from behind and pull it out in the 10th inning to win 6-4. So for Joe Madden and for Dave Roberts, it's a pretty good moment to rehearse. 0-2. Check swing, pitch outside. Waiting on deck, Kike Hernandez. As if Lester isn't tough enough in that really clutch spot, runner in scoring position and 2 out. The league is hitting .082 against him. Boy, you're just staring at Seager. 1-2 the count to Adrian Gonzalez. Seager has 1 stolen base. Long look in from John, and Seager back to the bag. Outfield deep. Fowler in a crouch out there for the moment in center field. And he is shaded a little bit towards left center. Now he straightens up. And the 1-2 pitch. Fastball flared to left field. That's going to drop for a base hit. Ryan picks it up, and the Dodgers are in business. First and second, 1 out, and Chichi with Hernandez coming up.
Number 14, Kike Hernandez.
CK struck out in the second inning, 0 for 1. Adrian just pushed that thing into left field. He'll take it. First and second, 1 out, 4th inning, no score. Kike with a half a dozen home runs, 15 runs batted in. Lester very deliberate. Checks the runners, and the left-hander now comes to the plate and gets it in there. 0-1. At one time you would say that Kike was hitting left-handers very well, but being in and out of the lineup, rarely playing, he's not batting .200 against either left or right. But he does have power. Half a dozen home runs. He's done pretty well against the Cubs in 7 of 11 games against Chicago. He's hit about .280. Hopper to short. Russell goes to second. They will turn that thing in first. So Hernandez bangs it to Russell, to Zobrist, to Rizzo. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left, and at the end of 4, no score. Jason Hayward, followed by Javier Baez, and then David Ross. Gorgeous day as the water rolls up onto the beach. Hayward singled to center in the second inning. So he's the proud possessor of the only Cubs hit. And Brock Stewart now, second time around, to the bottom of the lineup. Ball 1. The 1-0 pitch on the way. Fastball drilled in there. 1 ball, 1 strike. 5th inning, no score. Early we were talking about the Cubs and the Dodgers each having lost. 7 straight World Series. Dodgers finally snapped it in '55. Cubs are still looking. Their last shot back in '45. There are a lot of franchises who haven't had the chance to be in 7 World Series. The Chicago White Sox have been in 5 in their history. Cleveland Indians in 5. They had the crusher. They won 111 games in 1954, and the Giants swept them in 4. That's a line drive base hit, and it's in right center. Over to get the ball is Seguin, and holding on is Hayward with a long single. Seguin racing over to cut it to a single, otherwise that gets to the wall. So Hayward got a fastball up out over the plate, and a line drive single to right center. The batter now, Javier Baez, who struck out. The Senators, who became the Twins, they've been in 6 World Series. Then, of course, the Yankees. You know, the Yankees have been in 40 World Series. 40. Hayward at first, nobody out. 5th inning, no score, and that's going to go foul down the right field line. Talking about the Cubs in the World Series in 1906. That's when the Cubs reached the World Series for the first time. They finished that regular season 80 games above 500. Imagine. They won 116 games that year. And in the World Series, they were upset by the White Sox, of all teams to beat them. 0-1. Fastball hit in the air down the right field line. It'll slice foul and go back into the stands. Second in, long run, but to no avail. So Hayward is the offense. He has 2 hits. Bryant walked. No score. Dodgers have a hit from Gonzalez and from the pitcher Stewart. 0-2. Brock Stewart and John Lester. Hands popped up. It will be Turner unless Seager takes the play away. So Baez pops it up, and the batter will be David Ross. And friends, Monday, September 5th, Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. You'll get a free Dodger cap courtesy of Security Benefit. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. One out, Hayward at first. David Ross, right-hand hitting catcher at the plate. David has some sock, 8 home runs, 27 runs batted in. That's a strike. 0-1. No balls, 1 strike. Fastball missed. 1-1. David Ross and Anthony Rizzo. Anybody playing this game has a lot of kid in him. And Ross and Rizzo are constantly teasing each other during the game. One time when there was a play being reviewed, they got into a staring contest. Off the plate, ball 2. There's Anthony Rizzo. Yeah, they have a lot of fun. When you're good and young and winning, a lot of fun. 2-1. 2-2. 93-mile-an-hour fastball. It was July the 6th, 2002, when David Ross made his debut. He was from Georgia. His father was on a very good softball team, and they had a tournament where if you hit a home run, you get a watermelon. And as I said, his father's team was very, very good. And they got a lot of watermelons. So every summer he'd travel with his father's team, not too far, maybe half hour, 45 minutes from their home. They'd go home after every game with about 5 watermelons. 2-2 the count. There goes the runner, and a foul ball. So Hayward really motoring with 1 out. He'll come back. Ross struck out in the 2nd inning. Two balls, 2 strikes. Off the plate. So Hayward ran on the foul ball, did not run on what is ball 3. You have the pitcher, John Lester, who is not a good hitter at all, on deck. Ross waiting. Young Brooks Stewart ready. Brock's 3-2. Runner goes. Ball 4. Well, all I know about John Lester and his hitting could be summed up in one moment. 2 strikes on him. Bottom of the 12th inning. Scores tied. Winning run is Jason Hayward at 3rd. Lester's batting average was .051, and with 2 strikes, he squeezed in the winning run. So I would guess with 2 on and 1 out, Joe Madden is going to ask him just to get the bunt down. We'll see if he can do it. I mean, if you play long enough, you're going to do something right. Dodgers had Preacher Rowe, who was a left-hand pitcher and a right-hand batter, and you would get Preacher Rowe, and yet he hit a home run in Pittsburgh. The worst hitter you ever saw. Oh, they have him swinging. 0-1. He started his career 0 for 71. Bob Buell was a right-hand pitcher with the Milwaukee Braves, and I believe he started off like 0 for 61. But Lester will do. You got 2 on, Hayward and Ross, 1 out, no score. 5th inning. 1 ball and 1 strike. So for John Lester, he's hearing his manager. I believe in you. Let him swing and miss. No sign of a bunt. 1 ball, 1 strike. One and 2. Lester's first hit in his career was a single off the leg of John Lackey, who at one time was a teammate. Well, he squeezed in with 2 strikes. Let's see if they're going to ask him to bunt with 2 strikes. No score, 5th inning. Base hit for Hayward, a 1-out walk to Ross. And here's Lester. Oh, now 1-2. He's going to bunt and got it down. Fair ball, picked up and the out recorded. So I guess he's just a 2-strike bunter. He got it down and moved his men along. So Ross goes to second. Hayward advances to third.
Infielder Dexter Fowler.
And with 2 out, Dexter Fowler. Mentioning John Lackey, you might wonder he's on the DL. All right, second and third. Dexter Fowler has struck out twice against Brock Stewart in the first and again in the third. Stewart has struck out 8 in the game. Little trouble now. No score, 5th inning, 2 out, runners at second and third. And first pitch seems to sink. Ball 1. Can hear the Cubby fans chanting 1-1. Let's go Cubbies. I'm sure there are several thousand Cubs fans in the ballpark. Remember, I was thinking before about Bob Buell saying, I remember he went like 0 for 61 or something. Rob Manchell looked it up. High fly ball, shallow. A quartet of Dodgers, and it's the middleman Hernandez. Just to finish the thought, Bob Buell was 0 for 70 in 1962 with the Braves and Cubs. No runs, a hit, 2 left. No score at the end of 4½. Sportsnet LA is brought to you by your Southern California Toyota dealers. Toyota's annual clearance event is here. Save big on the entire 2016 Prius family. Hurry in today. A ticket to the Beatles. Way back on this day in 1966. More about that later. And the first pitch to Seguin, 1 ball and no strikes. The Beatles were here on this day 50 years ago. We had 45,000 here. They were not allowed on the field. And the performance started at 9:30. It was over at 10. Beatles performed 11 songs in 27 minutes. 2 balls and no strikes. Foul back. The big thing and the story was what happened when the Beatles finished and were going to lead. They had a Lincoln Continental that was waiting to get them out of the ballpark and on the way to wherever they wanted to go. Ground ball to the right side, going back to smother it is Zobrist, and he can't do it. Ball gets away from him, and Seguin is aboard, and it'll be a base hit. So a leadoff single by Rob Seguin. That'll bring up Yasmani Grandal. So the idea was the car with the Beatles would exit the ballpark and clear out. But the fans, there must have been 10,000 kids waiting beyond the pavilion, and they were frenzied. They pulled off the car's hood ornaments, side mirrors. The car was stuck in a virtual sea of humanity. So they moved the car with the Beatles back out onto the field and went all the way back to the Dodger dugout. The Beatles jumped out and went back to the Dodger clubhouse trying to figure out a plan of escape. That's ball 1 to Grandal. So a new plan was devised. They'd use the armored car to depart as they used to arrive. But someone had let the air out of the tires during the show, and the car couldn't really work. So they decided, okay, how to sneak the Beatles out. And they got an ambulance. Here's the 1-0 pitch. That's a little high, ball 2-0. And the Beatles were put into the ambulance. They were covered with blankets, with lights flashing, sirens blaring. The ambulance seemed a reasonable bet to get through the crush of kids beyond center field. And the plan was once they got through the kids, they would get out to the 76 station. They would get out of the ambulance into the armored car, now with fully inflated tires. That's a strike, 2-1. Again, something went wrong. The driver had navigated through the fans, hit the gas, and the ambulance ran over a speed bump. And would you believe the radiator fell out of the ambulance? I mean, can you imagine the Beatles stranded in Dodger Stadium? Here's the 2-1 pitch to Yasmani Grandal. Fastball, foul back. Well, that got that armored car to rescue them. The kids had figured out what was going on, and the armored car was surrounded by fans, unable to move in any direction. But suddenly the Beatles caught a break. From out of nowhere, the Hells Angels showed up, encircled the armored car, led the Beatles out of the parking lot and on out into the night. What a story. Here's the 2-2 pitch, and that's low. Next night, the Beatles were in San Francisco at Candlestick Park, and that would be their final live performance before an audience. They became entirely studio-based the next 3 years. The Beatles came to L.A. 50 years ago today. 2 other notes about it. 3-2 to Grandal. That's line to left. Going back to his right, backhanding it is Chris Bryant. So Bryant, a wonderful athlete, playing third base most of the time, and makes a huge play on that sinking line drive by Grandal. Wow. Bryant racing to his right and backhanded that sinker. So 1 out. Seguin holding at first, and the batter will be Charlie Culberson. Jesse Chavez gets up in the Dodger bullpen. 1 out, 5th inning, no score. Big slow curveball, but it missed. 1 ball and no strikes. The Beatles all in their 20s, played 11 songs in 27 minutes. Paul McCartney, who is now 74 years old, averages 39 songs per show, which typically lasts about 3 hours. Fastball grounded. So imagine 11 songs in 27 minutes, and Cartney at 74, 39 songs a show in nearly 3 hours. I want to talk about an Iron Man. Rob Menchel dug that up. We do appreciate it. A little extra stuff and I'm sure a lot of the people listening never realized or heard or understood what happened that night here at Dodger Stadium. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Fastball for a strike. 1-2 to Charlie Culberson. No runs, 2 hits for the Cubs. No runs, 3 hits for the Dodgers. Slow breaking ball, pull foul. Not much Culberson can do as he turned on that, and that ball just followed his turn, and it figured to be a foul ball, and it was. No score. Meanwhile, Freddie Freeman just hit a 2-run home run against Madison Bumgarner. The 1-2 curveball is lifted to left. Bryant coming over towards the line, waiting to make the catch, and holding on at first is Seguin. And the Dodgers now will go to the bench. Brock Stewart did a magnificent job for 5 innings. Josh Reddick will come up and bat, and Jesse Chavez throwing in the pen. So Stewart, 5 magnificent innings where he struck out 8. And Brock getting handshakes in the dugout and a hug from Grandal. Of course, catchers and pitchers, they mean a lot to each other. So the pitcher has a good day. In fact, they tell a story about Carlos Ruiz, and they say the only time Ruiz ever is angry is after a pitcher has had a bad inning, and Ruiz comes into the dugout storming. I should never have called for that pitch, always blaming himself. 2 out, Seguin at first, no score, and Reddick at the plate. Fastball in the dirt, blocked by David Ross. 2 down, bottom of the 5th inning. No score. Lester plants that left foot. Now looks down the barrel to get a sign from Ross. And that's lifted to left center. Pretty deep, but very playable. Fowler is there, sunglasses glistening, makes the catch, and at the end of 5, no score. You had two Cy Young Award winners, Frank Viola for the Mets, Oral Hershiser for the Dodgers. Final score 1-0 Mets, 2 hours and 16 minutes. Viola went the distance, allowed just 3 hits. Hershiser allowed only the earned run, a single by Howard Johnson to drive in Greg Jeffries a long time ago. Let's go back to this one. Jesse Chavez ready to pick up the pitching burden, and Chris Bryant at the plate. Ball 1. What a tremendous effort by Brock Stewart. He went 5 innings. He allowed 2 hits, 1 walk, make it 2 walks, and struck out 8. Not good enough. Lester dueling him right along. Bryant walked in the first inning, struck out in the third, made a good play on that ball hit by Grandal. 1 ball and 1 strike. And that's going to be banged into right center. That is trouble. Cutting it off is TK, and he can't do it. And the ball kicks away, and easily into second goes Bryant with a double. So Chris Bryant leads off the 6th, slaps it into right center. Kike Hernandez tried to make a sliding block on the ball. His idea, slide, cut it off, and come up throwing. He slid, and he couldn't come up. The ball bounced beyond him. So a leadoff double, and that one means Rizzo, Zobrist, and Russell due up. We told you that Freddie Freeman hit a 2-run home run. The Braves are certainly back in the game. Giants led 5-1. Now it's 5-3. They're in the bottom of the 6th inning. That's a Bumgarten game. Rizzo flied to center and struck out. That's a strike. 0-1. Rizzo yesterday had 2 singles and a run batted in. He had 1 hit and a walk, going 1 for 4 in the first game. Dodgers have changed. You know how they load up the right side. Culberson will make the play, but instead of having Seager cover all of shortstop, they had Turner, just in case there might have been a play at third base. So Rizzo, a little ground ball, but he got his man over. So 1 out, and Ben Zobrist coming up. Grant Dayton, a left-hander, begins to warm up in the Dodger bullpen. Zobrist, a switch hitter, will check in left-handed. Jason Hayward, who hits after Addison Russell, is the next left-hand batter after Zobrist. So the infield has to play up. Scoreless, and we're in the 6th. Ball 1. Dodgers have been able to slow the Cubs down. They've turned in 2 double plays. Here's the 1-0 pitch on the way. That's a little high, ball 2, 2-0. Over at third, Chris Bryant backing down the line, short lead. Time. Yasmani Grandal asked for the time, granted by the plate umpire David Rackley. Jesse Chavez in relief of Brock Stewart. Low again. 3-0. Dodgers, of course, have to be very careful with Zobrist. He has 14 home runs, and 10 of the 14 batting left-handed. in there. 3-1. Infield up, 1 out. 3-1 pitch to Zobrist. And that's high, ball 4. So Chavez gives up a hit, a walk, and with runners at first and third and 1 out, Addison Russell coming up. Dave Stewart, check me on that, Dave Roberts coming out. Brock Stewart gave the ball to Jesse Chavez. Dayton is a left-hander, so we'll see what all this means. Hitting behind Russell is the left-hand hitter, Jason Hayward. All right, it figured he would stay with the right-hander for this batter, Russell, and he has Dayton ready for Hayward. Addison Russell flied to right, grounded to third, 0 for 2. All right, big pitches now for Jesse Chavez. And ball 1. Russell 0 for 2. 19 home runs, 84 runs batted in. Zobrist at first, Bryant down the line from third. And down but off the plate, 2-0. Jesse Chavez with the Dodgers does not have a wild pitch. Over in the American League, he had 1. Always look that up with a runner at third. Meanwhile, Jason Hayward waits on deck. 2-0 the count. Addison Russell. 2-1. Addison Russell is only 22. Was up with the Cubs last year, and they figure he's going to be their shortstop for many, many years, like Corey Seager. Fastball for a strike. So the veteran Chavez working on the kid Russell. Jesse is 33. Bryant down the line from third. Zobrist away from first. 1 out. No score, and the Cubs threatening here in the 6th. Pulled foul outside of third. Still 2-2. Got the ball in. Russell was able to turn on it. The pitch he chased was down and away. Because Jesse's doing a high wire act here. First and third, 1 out. Zobrist at first. Bryant down the line from third. That was that outside pitch, and he chased it again. So obviously a young hitter chasing 2 out of the zone. The one that came in, he pulled hard. 2 balls, 2 strikes. See if Jesse tries to go down and away again or up and in. Fastball popped up. It will be whom? Justin Turner then looks at Gonzalez, and Adrian makes the catch. So the veteran takes care of the kid, at least in that battle. I thought for a moment, as Turner was trying to get under that he was going to slip and fall on the side of the mountain out there in the middle of the diamond. Now Dave Roberts going back out. Let's see if he now brings in Grant Dayton. First and third, 2 out. Yep, that'll do it for Jesse. He won the battle with Russell, and we'll be right back.
Is brought to you by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop online at choosenissan.com. And by Children's Hospital Los Angeles. We treat kids better.
It is certainly baseball's answer to push against shove. Dodgers and Cubs scoreless in the 6th. Cubs had a leadoff double with 1 out, first and third. A big battle between Jesse Chavez at 33 and the 22-year-old Cubs shortstop, and Chavez won when Russell popped it up to Adrian Gonzalez. Dodgers then make the anticipated move. They bring in the left-hander Grant Dayton to face Jason Hayward, who has singled to center and singled to right. So Bryant's at third. Hayward got to third back in the 5th inning, but they're scoreless. And a strike inside corner at 94. Grant Dayton is 6'2", about 200 pounds, as Hayward checks in with a .208 batting average. Dayton, 26 years old in November. 1-1. In fact, check me to be more accurate. He will be 29 in November. Out of Madison, Alabama. And pulled and caught unbelievably by Adrian Gonzalez. It was like catching an echo. You didn't even see the ball. Whoa. What a play by the Gold Glove. I mean, that thing was hit so hard, and somehow Adrian stayed with it. Fortunately for him, it was on his glove side. No score. Sixth inning, no score. Look at that bullet once again, and somehow speared by Adrian Gonzalez. Meanwhile, the pitch to Kendrick, a strike. The fellas in the truck timed the flight of the ball from the bat to Adrian's glove. It was 2/3 of a second. 1 ball and 1 strike. We always talk about major league reactions, usually at third. But boy, what a play by Gonzalez. 1 ball, 1 strike. That's a strike. Kendrick not happy about that at all. Howie hitting .271. One and two the count. David Rackley, the plate umpire, lives in North Carolina. Rackley's had a little more than 3.5 years in the big leagues. Appointed in 2014, started umpiring back in 2001, and his first game in the big leagues August 13th, 2010. 2-2. Fouled away. So the Dodgers have used Brock Stewart for 5, Jesse Chavez for 2/3 of an inning, and then Grant Dayton. And the old joke in baseball, Dayton gives up that blur, walks in the dugout and says, "Got my man." 2-2. Fly ball right center. It will be the right fielder Hayward. 1 away. Say, friends, start your Labor Day weekend. Yeah, that's right. It's just around the corner, isn't it? Your Labor Day weekend with Friday night fireworks presented by Denny's. And be here Labor Day, Monday the 5th. The Dodgers and the D-backs, their first 40,000 fans in attendance, receive a Dodger cap presented by Security Benefit. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. All right, 1 away. Here's Corey Seager. No score. Bottom of the 6th inning. Well, the first game they went into the 10th inning tied 4-4. Yesterday the Dodgers hung on to win 3-2. That's that slow breaking ball at 72 for a strike. And today, no score. One and one. 2-1. John Lester, 32 years old, battling Corey Seager. Little ground ball will be fielded at second base with the pitcher covering. And we have 2 down. Justin Turner coming up, struck out and popped up 0-for-2. Dodgers have not had a man to third base. Yes, they did too. Pardon me, Kendrick, way back in the first inning because of the overthrow by David Ross. But they certainly haven't hit anybody around the third. They've grounded into 2 double plays. The Cubs, well, they left Hayward at third in the 5th, Bryant at third in the 6th. What a day, huh? 81 degrees. That's in the dirt. 2-1.
Fastball down around the knees, fouled off to the right. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Lester now has made 95 pitches. We'll look and see if the Cubs chart their pitches as far as pitches in a game. We just held out 105s for Lester. You see a 118 against Milwaukee on the 17th of August. So John now ready to make his 97th pitch. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Bottom of the 6th inning. No score. Fastball away. Lester walked Kendrick in the 1st inning, and he walked Seager in the 4th. And that's it. He's allowed 3 hits. Good pitch. 94-mile-an-hour fastball. Justin goes down. Dodgers go in order, and we're heading to the 7th inning. No score. My goodness, what's that line? The days dwindle down to a precious few. 32 games remaining and 13 here. So make your plans, look at the schedule, and come on out. It's going to be a great close. A push bunt foul by Javier Baez. 0-1. Baez struck out, popped up. And of course, remember, when we get down to the 19th of September, 3 huge games with the Giants here. And then on the 30th of September, 3 big games with the Giants up there. 0-1. That's a high fly ball. Racing out is Culberson, but coming in and making the catch is Seguin. 1 away.
Catcher David Ross.
1 down. David Ross coming up. I was just thinking a split second as Seguin was looking up for that ball. Now Rob is going to find out what it's like going on the road. His wife just presented him with a baby boy. He's just starting to idolize. And now it's, well, I'll be back. But shortly, because it's only a 3-game road trip.
But still, first time you leave, boy, that's a killer. Jorge Soler is out on deck. He would bat for John Lester. Slow breaking ball, but misses. David Ross struck out and walked 0 for 1. Justin Grimm, no relation to the great Charlie Grimm. If you're a Cub fan, you certainly know the name Charlie Grimm. 1 ball, no strikes. That's a strike. 1-1 to David. There's Justin Grimm. Charlie at one time managed the Cubs. He was involved with them for 1,000 years. He had the biggest set of hands you've ever seen, and he played the banjo. Good fastball, 1-2. No score. Each side with 3 hits. John Lester, absolutely brilliant. 98 pitches. Struck out a half a dozen. Dodgers had Kendrick get to third base in the first inning. And that was it. Little foul up to the right, out of play. The Cubs have had Hayward get to third in the 5th inning. Bryant get to third in the 6th inning. And that's it. One ball and 2 strikes. Fastball. So Ross strikes out a second time. 2 down in the 7th inning. Jorge Soler, who spells that name S-O-L-E-R, batting for Lester.
Now batting, pitch hitter number 68, Jorge Soler.
Soler played left field yesterday. Struck out, walked, hit into a double play, and grounded out. And in the first game, went 0 for 5. Though Soler struggling in the series. Hitting .236. He does have a little sock. 9 home runs, 25 runs batted in. Jorge Soler. Soler's from Havana, Cuba. Oh, 0-2. The Cubs must love him. They signed him to a 9-year deal. Now let's see, he's 24. They signed him when he was 21. 9 years. Oh, 0-2 to Soler. One and 2. On deck, Dexter Fowler, who was 0 for 3, having struck out twice. Two and 2 the count. Cubs came here with that great record. They had won 81 games, lost 45. They've been dazzling in the month of August. But the Dodgers won yesterday and have each scored so far today. 2 and 2. 3 and 2. The Cubs are 26 games above 500 at home and 10 games over 500 on the road. They've won 8 of the last 11 on the road. 3 and 2. And a little high, ball 4. So Soler gets a walk. And the batter will be Fowler, 0 for 3. Fowler 10 home runs, 39 runs batted in, ball 1. Well, Brandon Crawford just tripled in a run in the bottom of the 7th inning, so the Giants open it up a little bit. It was 5-1, 5-3. Now it's 6-3 Giants in the 7th. Slow curveball for a strike. Wow, at 76. Grant really sliding that one in there. 1-1. Fastball foul back. You get that very slow breaking ball in the 70s, and then a fastball in on the hands. Fowler couldn't get around on it. So this will be the 20th pitch for Grant Dayton. Light breeze blowing left to right. Fastball on the hands, little pop fly, and it will be Culberson for the catch. So the Cubs get a man on with 2 down, and they leave him as Fowler pops it up to go 0 for 4, and we're heading to the bottom of the 7th. No score. Bottom of the 7th, no score. Adrian Gonzalez, Kike Hernandez, or a pinch hitter for him, and Rob Segedin. And Jock Peterson is out on deck now that there's a right-hander in the game. Justin Grimm out of Bristol, Virginia, 6'3", 195, went to school at the University of Georgia. 1-1 to Adrian, who certainly helped the Dodgers immeasurably with 2 on in the 6th inning, and somehow
reacted and caught that line drive, which was a bullet off the bat of Jason Hayward. 1-1. Breeze has really picked up now, left to right, and a line drive base hit to right field. So Gonzalez is 2 for 3, and the batter will be Jock Peterson instead of Kike Hernandez.
Pitch hitter number 31, Jock Peterson.
Dodgers no runs, 4 hits now. The Cubs no runs, 3 hits. Jock Peterson with 18 home runs, 52 runs batted in. Pinch hitting for Hernandez with Seguin waiting on deck. And a strike, 0-1. Peterson, of course, hitting for Hernandez, and then will stay in the game in center field. In at the hands, 1 ball and 1 strike. Joe Blanton gets up in the Dodger bullpen. Gonzalez at first, nobody out. Breaking ball in the dirt. 2-1 the count. Another breaking ball that drops in nicely. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Of course, when you hit 18 home runs, I guess you don't see a lot of fastballs. So he's gotten a couple of good hooks. 2-2. Well, the Giants had Jarrett Parker just triple in 2. And they're in the bottom of the 7th, leading the Braves 8-3. Fastball away, and I mean way outside. Justin Grimm was originally drafted by the Rangers in the 5th round back in 2010. He's been with the Cubs, came up in 2013. So he's gone all the way. A big pitch for him. Adrian at first, not going, and it's foul back. Fastball. So he got ahead with the breaking ball, but he's thrown 2 fastballs, and the count stays 3-2. Justin Grimm, you always talk about the hitter's major league debut. When Grimm debuted a couple of years ago against the Astros, he went 6 innings, no walks, struck out 7, and was the winning pitcher. 3-2. Slow curveball, wouldn't you know? Yep. You get a lot of fastballs occasionally, but not when you have 18 home runs. And of course, Peterson has a tendency to swing from the heels anyway. And down he goes. 1 out, 7th inning. Gonzalez at first, and here's Rob Seguin. Flied to right, singled. He gets a big overhand breaking ball, but ball 1. Seguin checking with Woodward, and Lombard talking to Adrian. One ball and no strikes. There's that 82-mile-an-hour slider. 2-0 count. Two and 0. Fastball at 94. He brings a pretty good set of weapons to the mound. Got a very good fastball along with a two-seamer. Then he has a curveball. He has a slider cutter, which is kind of a hybrid pitch, and a changeup. That's going to go foul down the line. 2-2. We're in the 7th inning. 1 out. Gonzalez led off with a single. He's still at first. Bottom of the 7th, no score. On the other hand, up north, Giants 10, Braves 3. Two and 2. Fastball on the hands. Seguin hanging in there. Still 2 and 2. Two and 2 to Rob Seguin. 1 out, 7th inning, no score. Fastball got him. And at 95. Say, friends, on the road traveling, you want to watch the Dodgers? Subscribe to MLB.TV Premium for live or on-demand baseball on over 400 devices. So be sure to visit MLB.TV for details. All right. Grimm now has struck out 2. Gonzalez still holding. And the batter, Yasmani Grandal. Chase Utley is out on deck. Grandal has grounded to short and then lost a base hit on a wonderful running catch by Chris Bryant in left field. Bryant, who plays mostly third base, made a dazzling catch, and that was important because Seguin was aboard. Zobrist about 6 or 7 feet out on the grass in right field. That's the catch. Backhanded sinking line drive. Great play by Chris Bryant, who normally plays third, and played the heck out of that in left field. 1-1. Breaking ball inside. 2-1. Grimm is 6'3", 195. Just turned 28. Two and 1. Check swing. That'll cost a strike. Grandal unhappy with the call. In fact, I think he started to say check at third, and the plate umpire made the call already. You see that bat can get way out in front. You'll lose that argument every time. Out there. All right, 2-2 the count. Gonzalez at first, bottom of the 7th. No score with Bryant, Rizzo, and Zobrist due up in the 8th. Got him on the outside corner. Yasmani is fit to be tied. So all Grimm did is give up a leadoff single and then strike out the side. And at the end of 7, no score. Well, what's new for the Dodgers? Well, it's always a little old to go on the road, but that's where they're going, and they'll play tomorrow and Tuesday and Wednesday. Come home after Wednesday afternoon game, and they're off September 1, and then the next homestand, San Diego on the weekend, and 3 with Arizona. And then the club goes out on the longest road trip, 3 in Miami, 3 with the Yankees, and 4 with Arizona. Jock Peterson, who struck out for Hernandez, takes over in center. And Joe Blanton on the mound, facing Bryant. Boy, you come out of the bullpen, this is a tough chore. Bryant, Rizzo, and Zobrist. Chris Bryant walked, struck out, doubled, got him to third, and that was when the game changed on that dramatic catch by Gonzalez. The line drive hit by Hayward against Grant Dayton, and Grant got away with it. And that's hit in the air to center. Very playable. Peterson, a late start, and it's going to drop. You know, you forget about it when you sit in the dugout for a game and then you go up to pinch hit. Everybody says, oh, well, you know, it's a do or die play. When you sit in the dugout for the whole game and it's a bright, sunshiny day, it's a little hard. And he got no jump at all. In fact, he was frozen. And by the time he realized the ball was not hit hard, it's a pop fly single. So we will see just how important that is. Second hit for Bryant. And now Anthony Rizzo, fly to center, struck out, grounded out. Rizzo 0 for 3. No runs and 4 hits for each side. Rizzo batting .297. We're in the 8th, no score. And ball 1. Rizzo 0 for 3, fly to center, struck out, grounded out. The Cubs have been shut out 5 times, 3 in Wrigley, 2 on the road. And a towering fly ball that looks playable, and Seguin is at the other end of it and makes the catch. So for Anthony Rizzo, you get the feeling he just missed that as he forlornly goes back to the dugout. Just got under it. So 1 out, and that'll bring up Zobrist, who has struck out, fly to center, and walked. The Dodgers have been shut out 5 times at home, twice on the road, so they've been shut out 7 times. 1 out, Zobrist struck out, fly to center, and walked. Switch hitter batting left-handed and pops it up. Coming in, Turner. So a leadoff single, then a fly ball to right center, then a pop fly, and here's Addison Russell. Addison Russell flied to right, grounded to third, and popped up. 0 for 3. And he lifts it to center. A trio of Dodgers. It will be home. They bump together. Calling for it was Culberson, but Seager handles a lot of pop flies. And it's Seager who winds up with the ball because he's a little bit taller. It was bobbled, and he had to barehand the catch. So the Dodgers a little shaky there in the 8th inning, but they got away with it. No runs ahead, a man left. Bottom of the 8th, no score. You buy BMW. See a Southern California BMW Center today for exceptional offers. Bottom of the 8th inning. No score in the ball game, so the Dodgers go to the bench. Chase Utley will bat for Charlie Culberson. Andrew Tolles will bat for Blanton. On the mound, Trevor John Cahill, born and still lives in Oceanside, California. 0-1 to Chase. Cahill, 6'4", 225, 28 years old. Originally signed by the A's out of high school back in 2006. You may remember he pitched a lot for the Diamondbacks. 1-1 to Chase Utley. Lester, Grimm, and Cahill for the Dodgers. Stewart, Chavez, Dayton, and Blanton. Changeup in for a strike. Cahill was a shortstop for a couple of years in high school. He graduated with a 4.6 grade point average. Hear that, kid? In fact, he was 5th in a class of 650. He scored 1,950 on his SAT. That's out of 2,400. Committed to Dartmouth in the Ivy League. 2-2. Check swing, no swing, 3-2. In the Dodger bullpen, Kenley Jansen begins to warm up. Carl Edwards Jr. gets up in the Cub pen. Bottom of the 8th, no score. Dodgers have had one man get to third. That was in the first inning on a throwing error by David Ross. High foul out of play on the fastball. So 3-2. For Chicago, Hayward got to third in the 5th inning. Bryant got to third in the 6th. And for the Dodgers, the game was saved. A bullet hit by Jason Hayward, and somehow Gonzalez was able to react. It was hit to his gloved side, otherwise no chance. 3-2. Fast swung on and missed with a good sink at the bottom. So Utley off the bench and strikes out. So the last 4 Dodger batters have struck out: Peterson, Seguin, and Grandal. And now Utley. The surprising Andrew Tolles, hitting .358 in his last 6 games, 7 for 15 with 2 home runs and 7 RBIs. Ball 1. Again, the breeze has picked up left to right. Tolles has 5 doubles, 2 home runs, and runs like the devil. 2-0. In fact, it hits him, and he's awarded first. Now, Tolles is not familiar with a lot of the pitchers. He's been up and down, but we know he runs well, and he is 1 for 1 in stolen bases. Howie Kendrick walked, hit into a double play, flied to right. He is the only Dodger to get as far as third base today. On deck, Corey Seager. And the first one in for a strike, 0-1. Cahill, in his 8th year pitching in the big leagues, came to the Cubs last year. Missed the way, 1-1. One thing about Cahill, and it is an interesting thought right now, they always run on him. This year, 11 stolen bases and only 1 caught, and you have a runner over there in Andrew Toll, so we better keep an eye on him. 1-1. And a strike. In his career, 121 stolen bases and only 38 caught stealing. So we'll see if the Dodgers try to take advantage of that with the runner Tolles at first. 1 out. Golfed at, little roller. Cahill picks and throws it down the right field line. Here comes Andrew Toles to third. Stopping at second is Kendrick, and what a huge break the Dodgers get. So Trevor Cahill handles what they used to call a swinging bunt, and it was an easy play if he throws the ball correctly. But it sailed way out of sight for Rizzo. Error all the way, and the Dodgers on a hit batter and a throwing error have runners at second and third with 1 out. Joe Madden signals to Ross. David, go out to the mound and talk to him. So after a beautiful game marred only by Ross's throwing error in the first inning, which really didn't amount to any, now Cahill up to his hips. Second and third, 1 out. Seager, the hitter, and Turner on deck. So will they put Seager on with first base open and 1 out? We'll find out in a minute. So Tolles at third, Kendrick at second. 1 out. Yep, they will walk Seager and take their chances right against right. So in a moment, the Dodgers will have the bases loaded and 1 out. Justin Turner today has struck out twice and popped up. By the way, when the Cubs come up in the 9th, they have Hayward, Baez, and Ross. Joe Madden now coming out of the dugout. We'll see if he's going to go to the bullpen. He has Carl Edwards Jr., a right-hander down there. Joe taking plenty of time. There's Carl getting ready. And it looks like the word's out. Yep. Cahill has to come out. Edwards is coming in, and we'll be back. comes in, and it's standing room only. He's 25 years old come the 3rd of September. He is 6'3", 170 pounds. He's from a little town in South Carolina named Prosperity. It's a town of a population of 1,180. Once upon a time, Prosperity was called Frog Level. And then they changed the name in the 1870s. So here he is, and he is surrounded. Tolles at third, Kendrick at second, Seager at first, Cahill frustrated with himself in the dugout. Justin Turner 0 for 3. Does not have a grand slam, in case the thought crossed your mind. Adrian Gonzalez on deck. Oh, and 1. Looking at Edwards to bring him in at this kind of a spot. He is 0 and 1. The important thing, he has walked 10, but he has struck out 33. So 3 to 1's pretty good. 0 and 1 to Justin. And fouled away. 0 and 2. So Tolles at third, Kendrick at second, Seager walked intentionally. So there was Cahill. He came in, struck out Utley. That meant 4 Dodgers in a row had struck out. And then he hits Tolles and then throws away the little dribbler up the bat of Kendrick. And he doesn't quite know what hit him. 0 and 2. One and 2. Edwards originally drafted by the Rangers. 1 ball, 2 strikes. And down he goes. Well, they brought him in to strike out the hitter. And for Justin, tough time. He strikes out a 3rd time. So the Dodgers have had 5 strikeouts. The 7th, the side struck out. Here in the 8th, Utley and Turner strike out. And the batter now, Adrian Gonzalez. Gonzalez struck out, single to left and single to right. With the bases loaded, he's been pretty much Mr. Reliable. Fastball for a strike. Ben Zobrist about 10 feet out on the grass in right field. Rizzo is on the rim. The outfield split, a gap in right center because Hayward plays straight away in right. Off speed. 0 and 2. So Carl Edwards Jr. all of 24. His team sweating him out, rooting for him, especially Trevor Cahill. Cub fans are wild and delighted. Oh, that's great. Just wonderful. 0 and 2. Ball 1. Both sides so very anxious. One ball and 2 strikes. Little ground ball to third. They go quickly to second base. Safe, and the run scores. Javier Baez handling the ground ball, but the problem was the second baseman Zobrist was 5 feet into right field. And by the time Zobrist got to the bag, the throw was late. They checked on the phone. Here comes the second baseman. Boy, that's close. The second base umpire, Alfonso Marquez, made the call. The Cubs, I believe, are going to ask for a review. Yep. Yeah, that was the problem. The fact you can't have a second baseman playing so far away and then ask him to get to the bag. And it was a foot race between Seager and Zobrist. They were really foot to foot. It's that close. A brutal call, and for all we know, the game's going to be decided by it. So for Alfonso Marquez, a tough call. They don't get much tougher than that. There it is. And there's Alfonso. He's got a good look at it. The crowd is reacting. Some are cheering, thinking that's one play, and then others cheer because it's the other way. Wow. After all this battling, it comes down to a toe dance at second base. No matter how they call it, some people are going to boo. The Dodger fans are chanting, safe, safe, safe. All right, now what? Safe. And the Dodgers get a run in the 8th inning to lead 1-0. The run is charged to Cahill. For Gonzalez, I guess they'll call it a fielder's choice. And Jock Peterson coming up. Andrew Toles started it, hit by a pitch, took third on the error, and comes home on that eyelash play at second base. Wow. So Edwards certainly did his job. He got Gonzalez to hit a ground ball to an infielder, but it didn't quite come out. Kenley Jansen is in the bullpen. He'll be coming in with a lead. And the batter is Jock Peterson, who struck out in the 7th inning against Justin Grimm. Off speed for a strike. Good change. What a day. What a game. And it's not over yet. Hayward, Baez, Ross, and or several others available. 1-0 Dodgers on an eyelash play at second base. Fouled away. 0-2. It's really such a great game with all the energy, with all the thinking. It comes down to a toenail. Beach ball on the field. Timeout for a minute. Young lady racing out there to center field. The beach ball comes to Fowler, who hands it to her, but now she's got a long way to run. So timeout. So Carl Edwards Jr. got the tough hitter Gonzalez to hit a chopper to third, but the second baseman couldn't get to the bag in time. And the Dodgers lead 1-0. The bases are still loaded. Kendrick at third, Seager at second, Gonzalez at first. 0-2. Time. Hernandez had struck out and hit into a double play. Peterson batted for him, and he struck out. 0-2. Fastball away, and at 95. Chip off the old block. His dad was a college pitcher. 1-2. Fastball away again. 2-2. We mentioned it the other night. He had a nickname as CJ, but then later on his teammates
Called him String Bean Slinger. Well, he is quite a slinger. Come to think of it, he's quite a string bean. Probably less than 170 pounds. Fastball fouled away. So Peterson hanging tough. Tough afternoon for him, sitting quietly in the dugout. In the 7th inning, struck out. Then in the 8th inning, did not get a jump at all and played Bryant's fly ball for a base hit. It's so tough to come in late in a game. And now here he is, 0-2, worked his way to 2-2, and the bases are loaded with 2 out. Fastball got him looking. Whoa. Threw the bat away. So Jock strikes out a second time. The big play at second base, you could write a book on that. It would call frustration. Carl Edwards crushed when the Dodgers got the call and lead 1-0. Ninth inning, a look to tomorrow. Dodgers will be in Colorado. Kenta Maeda on the hill for the Dodgers. John Gray, an 8-game winner, will be out there for Colorado. The Dodgers have won 7 of 12 against Colorado. Andrew Toles, who was hit by the pitch, stays in the game in right field. Chase Utley, who batted for Charlie Culberson and struck out, stays in the game at second base. And on the mound, Kenley Jansen. Jansen will hit in Rob Segedin's spot, and the batter is Jason Hayward. Hayward almost had a great day. Ball 1. He singled in the 2nd, singled in the 5th, and came up with 1st and 3rd and 2 out in the 6th, and you had to see it to believe it. He hit the ball so hard, and it wound up in Adrian Gonzalez's glove. 1-0. Check swing, pitch outside, ball 2. Now in this state, Gonzalez is guarding the line, trying to cut down the possibility of an extra base hit. Hayward 2 for 3. 1-0 Dodgers, 9th inning. And driven foul way down the line upstairs. 2-1. Jason Hayward hit 27 home runs when he was with the Braves, so he's a handle with care hitter. And a fly ball to left field, very playable. Hendrick is there. So one precious out in the ninth inning. Javier Baez coming up. Baez played third, and it was interesting. The comment now kind of hangs over the field. Very well back in the first inning. Joe Madden was asked, why are you playing Baez at third base? And he said, because that's where all the action is. Little did we know that the ground ball to Baez, and he had to wait for the second baseman Zobrist, and that's where the action was. And it's 1-0 Dodgers. Baez also was struck out, popped up, fly to right, and takes a strike. Baez has 13 home runs, 47 runs batted in. Jensen got his first out. Kenley ready, 0-1. 0-2. The paid attendance today, 44,745. The Dodgers are averaging 45. So right now they've drawn 3,102,777. 0-2. Boy, he was just swinging on that pitch, and it was way outside. And got Yasmani right in the mask. 0-2. David Ross on deck. Ground ball to the hole. Seager was deep. Comes up and throws on a bounce. And it is in time. Oh, what a tough play. The Baez is nipped at first. 6-3. And the batter now will be David Ross, the former Dodger who's going to retire this year. Here comes that close play. So with 2 out, a note of irony, as a former Dodger who's going to hang him up is standing in the way of a 1-0 victory. For the Cubs, okay, we lose, but they began the day 14 games ahead of the Cardinals. For the Dodgers, have to win. They're leading by 2, and the Giants are breezing. 44,745, and David takes a strike. Ross has struck out twice and walked. For the Cubs to be shut out, pretty tough hitting ball club. They have been shut out 5 times, and they're down to their last strike. They were shut out 3 times at Wrigley, and now Joe is face to face with a 3rd shutout on the road, and what a heartbreaker, no matter they're leading by 14. 0-2 to David Ross. Foul back. One way or another, whoever you're rooting for, it has been a great day. Wow. Andrew Toles gets in the game, hit by a pitch, and eventually scores the only run, the solitary one. Crowd, everybody up. That'll do it. So David Ross strikes out. The Cubs go quietly in the 9th. Meanwhile, the Giants beat the Braves 13-4. So the Dodgers remain in first place, leading by 2 games. And it all boiled down to a whisper, a toenail, a toe dance around second base. This was it.
It looked like a routine ground ball, but the second baseman was late getting to the bag because he was playing Gonzalez to pull, and that was the difference. Seager's foot just did beat the foot of Zobrist. So 1 run, 4 hits for the Dodgers, no runs, 4 hits for the Cubs. Dodgers go on the road. We'll be talking to you Friday on September the 2nd. Till then, have a pleasant good afternoon, everybody.